Hey, welcome to On the Clock, a collaboration between the Packaday Podcast and the Draft Fellows. I'm Andrew Mertig. That's Kyle Fellows. Together, we are the Draft Fellows. And leading up to the draft, we have been doing a series that covers picks 1 through 32, each team's biggest need and who they should be considering at the pick. So you can check out all of the previous episodes on the Draft Fellows YouTube channel or any of the audio versions on the Packaday audio stream. Kyle, we are at pick 27 somehow, and the draft
Somehow.
is like rapidly here.
Yeah. We are days away. I know. We're days away. It feels like we've been prepping for this. You know, we started watching these prospects in the fall and then kick things up a little bit in January, February. Somehow we are approaching the end of April and we are about to get to the actual NFL draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's a fun time to be a sports fan and a Packers fan. And so we're working our way through these teams. Like you said, we're up to pick 27. The Baltimore Ravens are the topic today. And when you kind of look at what the Ravens could do, there's a couple different directions they could go with it. They could look at guard. They could talk about the edge position. They could go defensive back. The Ravens are just kind of one of those teams that always seems to just grab the best player that's available on the board. And it feels like every year a really good prospect just slips a little bit and falls right into their lap. And maybe they'll do that this year. Maybe something else happens. But the Ravens are solid at offensive tackle and center, but they could look to upgrade the guard position for sure. Andrew Voorhees has 2 years left on his deal, but he dealt with an ankle injury last year, and that gave way to Ben Cleveland starting most of the season for Baltimore. And Ben Cleveland and Daniel Falele are both on the last year of their current contract. So the Ravens could introduce some competition there at guard and kind of work towards a future plan along the interior of their offensive line. They could also go look at the edge position. Odafe Owe, I still want to call him Jason Owe, is set to start there. But they need more talent from their pass rushers, even if second-year player Adisa Isaac makes the jump this fall. Finally, they could look at defensive back. The Ravens have Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington, and they're a good safety duo, but Washington is back on just a one-year deal. So maybe Baltimore looks to play to the future at safety. They could also look at corner. Marlon Humphrey and Nate Higgins are good players, but the depth behind them is uninspiring, I guess. And Marlon Humphrey spent the majority of his snaps in the slot last year as well. So adding a corner with the ability to play the boundary could be a priority for Baltimore as well.
Yeah, and so some of the players that might be available at pick 27, right in that strike zone for Baltimore. If they are looking interior offensive line, you have Tyler Booker, a total road grader. That could be an interesting fit there. You have North Dakota State's Gray Zabel, maybe gone before this pick, but you never know. And that's a versatile offensive lineman who could play at a bunch of different positions. Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas, or Josh Simmons from Ohio State. And you're probably saying, Andrew, Josh Simmons is a tackle, but he did play guard at San Diego State before transferring to Ohio State. And that's somebody that you could fit inside and then gives you that versatility to eventually kick outside, once he's fully healthy. At the edge position, maybe Marshall's Mike Green, James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, Donovan Ezraku, even somebody like Nick Scorton at 27 is not out of the realm of possibility. If they're looking corner, you mentioned Nate Wiggins looked pretty good as a rookie, but you have an aging Marlon Humphrey. Maybe they want to add somebody like Trey Amos or Azare Thomas or Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky. Darian Porter, maybe more of a second rounder, but the Ravens love to bet on traits, and so that would be an interesting player as well. Or maybe they're looking at Siobhan Revel Jr. as a great value because the injury has really pushed his draft stock down. And then, of course, safety. Malachi Starks is like this really fantastic prospect, and we just don't have a landing spot for him.
Yeah.
We don't know where he's going to land, and that's Baltimore's MO, right? Like, just take the player, the great player that falls to you. But also Nick Imanware is a really interesting fit at safety if Starks were gone or if they wanted a little bit different kind of fit. So now that we went through their needs and a list of players who might fit, who do you think are some players that the Ravens could be targeting at 27?
Yeah, the Ravens are that team that just feels like they're going to sit at 27 and grab a really good player who probably shouldn't be on the board for them. So I'm going to suggest 3. If that's the scenario, and that plays out, then I'm going to keep my eye on these guys. And the first is Tyler Booker. If he were to fall this far, I think that's a huge value and likely be their best offensive guard like immediately. And so I think that they would make that pick. And it would be really annoying, but I could see a situation where Malachi Starks, you mentioned him, falls and the Ravens stop the slide and just take the best player available. And they pair him with Kyle Hamilton and they just have a incredible safety duo there for the future. But if they don't get lucky, as they always seem to, and they kind of have to, take more of a player that we expect to be in this range, I think that they could be in the market for one of these late first round cornerbacks. You mentioned the Trey Amoses of the world, Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. I think both of those guys would very much be in play for the Baltimore Ravens if they are there at 27.
Yeah, just go ahead and throw Tyler Booker in there, road grading holes for Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
Not
Seems
fair.
seems like a pretty good fit. One of the things that I was thinking about is pairing Kyle Hamilton with Nick Imanwari is legitimately hilarious. Like Hamilton is seemingly the only player you can comp Imanwari to. So both of them on the back end would create such chaos for opposing teams that I'm almost rooting for it now. But the Ravens are so good at investing in young pass rushers, turning them into really good fits in their scheme, really productive players. And for me, James Pierce Jr. has some Odafe Owe to his game, and the Ravens probably are going to do the things the Ravens always do. Let Owe walk next offseason because they almost never pay their edge rushers. So Pierce could step in, learn behind him for a year, and then become an absolute major problem for tackles across the AFC in 2026.
No, I like that a lot. And James Pierce Jr. isn't my favorite edge rusher in this class. He's just not for me. But this is again one of those situations for the Baltimore Ravens where the league decides, like, okay, let's pass on this guy who was super productive in college for a long time, put up great numbers, and we'll just insert him into our defense and let him continue to be very productive. So it's still a very Baltimore Ravens thing to do. So good discussion on the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to continue this series. So thanks for joining us today. Make sure you do like and subscribe to the show and stick with us as we preview all 32 teams in this series leading up to this 2025 NFL draft that is right around the corner. From the draft room to the gridiron, the Draft Fellows have got you covered. Until next time, stay tuned and stay in the game.